start to peel back the layers and actually try to construct some ideological profiles, which is essentially what that is, a series of ideological profiles of some of the major figures in this anti-Trump conspiracy, you start realizing this is not normal American politics at all. It is actually something outside our canon, much more closely to the import of communist ideology, of Marxism, the imposition of Marxism onto our institutions and into our education system and all the rest of it, whereby the ends justify the means. There is no law. They are anti-constitution. They are anti-citizens. All about moving toward that collective, beautiful future that they all seem so enamored with. And I think this is where you have to get back to another why question, is having to do with the fact that it was Donald Trump that triggered this outrageous behavior. I argue is a counter-revolutionary figure. He was the first American president to come forth to actually set out to reverse the direction of the United States since World War II toward an international system, a globalist system. They call it the liberal world order and all the rest of it. That was inaugurated at the end of World War II with the creation of the United Nations, which was brought into being by a Soviet agent named Alger Hiss, who worked in the United States State Department, and the global monetary system, which was brought into being by another Soviet agent inside the United States Treasury Department, Harry Dexter White, the first head of the IMF.
I mean, it's so strange to think that we live in this ideological structure that was built by long-dead Soviet agent, totalitarian-loving, horrible human beings. And it's like, you know, there's a story, there's always in mythology and so on, that you can kill the man, you cannot kill the idea. And it's like, well, yeah, so the Soviet Union ended, of course. But that doesn't mean that Marxism ended, and the media should know this, because about 70 years ago, but they're willing to understand political manifestation and seeks a new home. Nazis all over America trying to turn it into the next fourth Reich. So the fact that we talk about communism, people think, oh man, that's crazy, but it's just deep in the rear view. Yeah, it's the 80s. Like, and it was a false year even back then. But the ideology, I mean, I keep pointing out that there are thousands of outright Marxists teaching, indoctrinating the young in American universities, but somehow the threat is, you know, 3 neo-Nazis in Charlottesville. And it is very much a living, breathing ideology that still seeks willpower.
It's very true, and what was a revelation to me, because frankly, I began this work as a thought experiment. It began with Nellie Orr, really in December of 2017, when we learned about this very peculiar couple, Bruce Orr, the senior Justice Department official, and his wife Nellie, at the heart of the Fusion GPS dossier writing team, the Russia expert. And because she was an academic in her previous life, in the 1990s, she taught Russian and Soviet studies at Vassar. There would be a paper trail that you could start to try to decode just how the book really started. And
so you point that out, because when you have officials, it's kind of tough to know what their ideology is, but when you have academics, well, you know, there's intellectual and moral crimes all over the place.
Absolutely, although I will say I was quite shocked. I had never actually come across, and you know, maybe I've led a charmed life, I had never actually read the writings of someone writing between, say, 1998 and 1996 and 2004, I believe, is the range of book reviews, for example, that I examined by Nellie Orr, apologizing for Stalin. Stalin, not even just abstract Marxism, maybe it hasn't been tried, you know, that kind of thing. Not the sort of, you know, out-of-body experience Marxist apologists. No, this was literally discussing the terror of the Stalin era versus the excitement of the Stalin era.
Yeah, like it's some roller coaster ride from hell. And so, you know, and it's horrible enough to praise Stalin in the 30s and the 40s and the early 50s and so on. But, you know, post-Khrushchev, post-Solzhenitsyn, come on.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Communism, and although with arguably an even higher body count. And so to defend, oh, you know, can you imagine saying that about Hitler? Well, it was an exciting but thrilling time. I mean, come on, dangerous, exciting, yet terrible. Or upside to the multi-million slaughter fest that was Stalinist Russia. And it's like, of all the things to complain about, it's mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing, particularly when you realize she left the college campus, had a long-term relationship with the CIA, and as a contractor, as far as we know, that's the extent of it, but that's kind of a nice way to, have that deniability, but certainly at least 6 years as a contractor. And then she is at the heart of this anti-Trump conspiracy, working at Fusion GPS with, cultivating this Russian fake dossier. That's a frightening thought.
Today is going to be our day.
In this way, you can look at her, what I consider her opposite number, the former British intelligence officer Christopher Steele, who, if you peel back his layers, you find out that back in the day, in the 1980s, when he was a very prominent student at Cambridge University, he was the president of the Cambridge Union, the august debating society there, and he was known on campus as a, quote, confirmed socialist. Well, you're starting to match up, your little red onions there. I mean, this is starting to look like light to light. He also was known for some kind of association with the very Marxist, really Soviet front group, and you may argue the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, which back in the 80s was very much in line with then the Soviet foreign policy focused on pushing America out of NATO, preventing America from deploying defenses in Europe and so on during the Reagan years. This is Christopher Steele. We can't ignore the ideology as much as the media and politicians would like to. You start
The fuck?
continuing to look
Does this guy not jump as well?
you find James Comey, the fired
Oh my god.
director, in open interviews in 2003 discussing how he was a communist himself, him discussing it in the 1980s when he was a student at William and Mary, writing a thesis about a man that I did not know much about into this. I will confess, he's lifelong, deep influence, continually genuflexing anytime he's under influence in his life. When he was a communist, he discovered Reinhold Niebuhr, and now 30, 40 years later, it's still Reinhold Niebuhr. It was his Twitter handle until he was discovered a couple of years ago. And indeed, he told the New York Times in 2018 that these two most influential books on his development were by Niebuhr, going back to Niebuhr's 1930s experiences as a member of the Socialist Party, very militant member, calling for violence as a necessary ingredient to change the social order on campuses back in the day. I mean, this is not just some kind of experimental feel-good kumbaya kind of youthful bullying. This is hardcore revolutionary rhetoric that attracted a man who didn't just go and subvert children, right? He actually became the #2 Justice Department official in 2003. He was the Rod Rosenstein of the Ashcroft Justice Department, and then of course several years later became the FBI director. So this is a revolutionary in generic sort of Republican suit and tie, big resume clothing.
So I just want to put that in perspective for the listeners and let me know if I mischaracterize anything. When you're in the public sphere, heaven forbid anyone who may have kicked a cat when they were 12. And the video emerges and it's like, oh yeah, I remember when you interviewed that cat kicker, you sadist. Like the guilt by association that happens when you're on the cliff edge of criticizing communism is something that we all kind of have to be aware of. It's a real shame, but it is just the reality of things. Now, for the former director of the FBI, to be warbling on about how his biggest influence was a guy who advocated the use of violence to overthrow the American government. I mean, that is truly astonishing. He was in charge of the FBI. His #1 guy, his Twitter handle, his big go-to guy was a guy who said use any means necessary, if I understand the argument correctly, to overthrow the existing U.S. political system, to shred and bypass the Constitution. So I guess I gotta wonder, how do you swear an oath to the Constitution and then genuflect in front of a guy who wanted to do to the Constitution what the guys in Fargo did to the guy in the wood chipper? I mean, that's just absolutely astounding what you can get away with if you're not where we are, I suppose.
Well, it's all about power and seizing power, and it's necessary. And if that requires an oath that you don't believe in, that's very minor, small potatoes. I mean, this is the ethos of the Marxist revolutionary. And when you see the thread going through here, and I would like to add something else about Comey, which I think is really important here. Conservatives very often talk and worry and try to on the upward the depredations of the Frankfurt School.
What are you waiting for? Let's do this.
The cultural Marxist exploitation. I actually believe that they were late to the party. That it was already done pretty much by the time they were in translation. But these were, of course, the mainly German Jewish refugees who academics who came out of Hitler's Germany and were essentially seeded throughout American academia. Interestingly enough, through an organization, an international education organization that was headed by a man by the name of Stephen Duggan. His real leg man, a much younger man at the time, was Edward R. Murrow, who was a CBS icon and direct enemy of Senator Joseph McCarthy back in the day. They were at loggerheads, the communist and the anti-communist.
Hello, buddy.
Stephen Duggan, just one data point here, his son, Lawrence Duggan, became a State Department official who later unmasked as a Soviet agent. Marxism and the Soviet I'm butchering the Maoist swimming in the Red Sea, the fish who swims in the Red Sea. But the point here being that Comey's professor was Reinhold Niebuhr back in the day, in the 1950s, at Union Theological Seminary. Niebuhr had a straight-up member of the Frankfurt School, get a position, a man by the name of Paul Tillich, who believed that Christianity needed sort of a Marxist resuscitation to be relevant in the 20th century. So we have a straight-up Frankfurt School representative here who also taught Comey's professor. So we've got a direct intellectual chain of custody from the Frankfurt School, Reinhold Niebuhr, the man of the Marxian ethics, as you've been described, and to Comey's professor, a man named Robert Livingston, to Comey, to the American people. So we've got a direct weaponization, if you will, of these ideas, of the Frankfurt School radicalization, of the Christian Marxism, if you want to call it that, of a Reinhold Niebuhr, coming directly into play in our lives. And now when you see, for example, when James Comey took on the guise of indeed the Attorney General himself back in 2016, when he decided that Hillary Clinton did not merit in any kind of referral, any kind of criminal referral, he completely dismissed charges all by himself. You start to understand how that can be. This is the system that he's learned and imbibed, and it again comes down to by any means necessary.
So we'll get to sort of the more nitty-gritty of how this all unfolded, but I guess one of the questions that troubled me from time to time.
Lock and load, rinse, repeat. It's that simple.
I'll certainly put a link to it below so that people can get a hold of it. But why on earth would Vladimir Putin be pro-Trump when he was pretty much getting everything he wanted from Hillary and
this is your champion.
That's sort of one of the fun. I know she talked tough, like the cyber warfare and all that kind of stuff. But the transfer of technology, the fact that she seemed to be in bed with helping deliver 20% of America's uranium to Russian-controlled companies, the fact that she was scooping up truckloads of cash and giving speeches and so on. I don't see how Putin benefited from working with Trump as opposed to working with Hillary.
Let's go to the source of that, what I consider to be a big lie of this anti-Trump conspiracy. James Comey testified before Congress that Putin hated Hillary. This is one of the sources of this very ridiculous kind of idea, and I would distill it even just to one particular difference between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. This was a very important point in the campaign, perhaps in terms of inspiring this conspiracy. Hillary Clinton, as a candidate in 2016, told a group that the last thing we need, quote, the last thing we need are sophisticated cruise missiles with nuclear capability. Donald Trump gave a speech not long after this and said that America's nuclear arsenal was degraded, needed to be modernized, needed to be revamped and expanded, and needed to do so immediately. So imagine you are sitting in the Kremlin and you are Vladimir Putin and you are weighing two candidates to me with my nuclear edge that I would gain against the West. He has tremendous nuclear capabilities at this point. Who do I prefer? The one who wants to continue the degradation of Barack Obama, or this crazy America First guy who actually wants to restore American manufacturing orders and our nuclear arsenal? Well, none of it makes sense. So you start to see the gelling of this fable. I mean, that's a nice word for it. But it hangs on perniciously. And as you know from American Betrayal might be really framed as a history of the big lie in the modern media age. And Robert Conquest, the great British-American Soviet historian of Soviet history, he marked the first big lie as having been the Ukraine terror famine, whereby Stalin engineered a famine to wipe out millions and millions of freeholding peasants who in other words, to collectivize agriculture and take away the private ownership of land. There was this tremendous killing field in the Ukraine whereby people were literally starved to death by the millions, deported, froze, all the rest of it, on the edge of Europe. Nobody paid attention. Franklin Roosevelt decided to recognize the Bolshevik regime shortly after this began to subside, and Nellie Moore comes along and writes about the glorious stabilization of this collective farm.
Do you want to remember this number from your book correctly, Diana? That's 6 million?
Read easy, watch your side, and never quit.
I know what you're looking for.
And mass murder, and certainly genocide of a particular landowning class. That's 6 million people. It seems to ring a bell about something else that's a little harder to forget these days, but I guess that's where the politics lie.
This is your champion.
Politics lie, and they lay there at the same time, because it wasn't that people didn't have the information. There was information coming out of the Soviet Union. The media was just as corrupt as we see today. I mean, there's a very extensive discussion of what the media did to actually demonize one reporter who brought a press conference together and actually discussed what was really going on. This is when the New York Times won its completely nefarious Pulitzer Prize for reporting that there was no famine. This is Walter Duranty. People may actually even have heard of him around 1932-33. This really illegitimate Pulitzer Prize that the New York Times and Washington Post can now bookend with their Pulitzer Prize for the Russian collusion hoax that they won last year. So we see continuity here also. But what I was saying was that this is a big lie using mass media, using the just repetition of mass media, which really wasn't possible before mass media. Really begins in this early 1930s period, according to Conquest. I kind of took that and ran with it and marked the progression of big lies that really have subverted our understanding of practically everything that we think we know about our history, the war, the Cold War, and the rest of it. I believe that the Putin hates Hillary, actually is in this same petition. And it's very important. We see it continuously repeated to this day. And I would like to note, with the Mueller report, yes, there's this bright, shiny thing that there was no Russian collusion, which Andrew McCarthy, the former federal prosecutor, actually wrote a fascinating piece pegging Robert Mueller's understanding of this, he believes, to 18 months ago. He says that Mueller knew 18 months ago there was no Russian collusion. Well,
I would love to know the date where that dawned. We may never. But the day when this dawned was when they continued to and peace of mind and family structure for everyone who was supporting Trump.
Exactly. But the other feature of the report, which I think is very dangerous, and I think it's really where the marker's been laid down, is the notion that, yes, the Russians hacked the 2016 election. We are still with this based on the flimsiest of evidence, the FBI never ran its own forensics. And you have a fascinatingly credentialed group of former intelligence world experts, including former tech director of the National Security Agency, William Binney, who actually is carrying a lot of the data collection programs that are still in use today, actually saying there is no evidence that the Russians hacked. Evidence is not credible, but you see the media still doubling down, the report doubling down, trying to protect the deep state for this investigation, and that is kind of the struggle that I see developing, and it concerns me because I can see us going forward, to use that horrible phrase, right? We should never utter, but moving on in terms of the story and how we react to it, accepting that, and that is just absolute. That cannot be, and I hope that people can be made aware of this. But if you notice, you're not seeing a lot of mainstream media interviews with William Binney.
No, and unfortunately, we can't get many answers out of Seth Rich anymore, although I think we probably could. So I'm going to just read a sentence from the book, and let's take these bit by bit, because this is the story arc that I think people really need to get. So, starts with the Clinton campaign, quote, intelligence, dossier gate. Through the investigation into Hillary Clinton's private server gate, rigged the secret court system, FISA-gate, to engage in domestic espionage against the Spygate, and then, having failed utterly to put the election to the woeful, corrupt Democratic presidential candidate set forth to destroy the Trump presidency by special counselor Muellergate. Okay, so we've got Dossiergate, FISA-gate, Servergate, Spygate, and Muellergate. Obviously, starting with Dossiergate is really quite fascinating, and I didn't quite follow this in one of the interviews, that this is boomerang you need to do in order to spy domestically, that you have to generate some sort of foreign security issue in order to be able to more easily get to spy on people domestically. So what was the purpose of Dossiergate, and how do you think it came to be?
Well, I think the way we don't really, this is still almost all speculation. We don't still know so many of these extremely key answers. But what we're looking at is this.
Beto O'Rourke accused Trump of pushing fear and division at a rally in El Paso, which is a site to a lot of illegal alien activity. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez, who's somehow still in office, isn't he supposed to be corrupt? The top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee called Trump's declaration a reckless announcement, and he wants Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, to reject Trump's declaration. And it is an estimated $700 million sent to those three countries called the Northern Triangle. That's El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. A 45-year-old would-be illegal alien from El Salvador told media, "There's no work here, and we want to improve our lives and get ahead for our families, for our children. I don't give a damn what Trump says. I'm determined." So he's coming up. March is on track. This month of March was on track for 100,000 border apprehensions. I guess we'll hear the numbers later. In more than a decade. Illegals are overwhelming Texas cities. Trump says, "We've never seen anything like this." The USA Today reports that the media claims vast majority of those crossing between ports of entry.
How's everyone doing?
There is a backlog of unaccompanied alien children stuck in TJ, Tijuana. San Diego Union Tribune says they're wanting to be allowed into the country. Many have waited for months. Good. Federal officials have said that they've prioritized minors, but
he's
they're
fine.
still
Everyone's
waiting.
fine.
The liberal beta pope criticizes building walls to keep migrants out, according to Drudge. Reuters says, Reuters quotes Pope Francis, "Builders of walls, be they made of razor wire or bricks, will end up becoming the prisoners of the walls they build," he said. The Argentinian social justice pope spoke aboard a plane in Morocco and said the problem must be solved differently, humanely, not with razor wire.
This might be a good place to land, but
With fear, we will not move
follow the
forward
leader,
with
that's me.
walls. We will remain
As long as
closed
we
within
win.
these walls. He said that wealthy countries should help eliminate the root causes of migration such as poverty, war, political instability. Migrants should be accepted, protected, and integrated. And if a country cannot handle the numbers, the migrants should be distributed among other countries. So he said. Men's Forum this Thursday, April 4th, 2019, first Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. in Bond in Los Angeles. Also, couples seminar this Saturday, April 6th, 12 to 4 at Bond, RSVP, rebuildingtheman.com, 323-782-1980. I'm James Hake of The Hake Report. Now on to the Jesse Lee Peterson Show.
Attention. First blood.
First blood on the enemy.
I'm down.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. Good morning. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Welcome to the show. Today is April Fool, April 1. It's amazing, 29.
President Trump is preparing the nation for multiple EMP strikes. Check this out. He just signed an executive order.
Clips are what cities using their hair. What's it called, a magazine?
Electromagnetic pulses. Now, seeing this executive order made me think immediately, what
I accept the challenge. If the gods will it, Vivenna.
why are they digging in so hard right now with the electrical grid? Did they find something out about our sun? Do they have intel on, terrorist organizations?
This is your champion. Follow my path to win.
Is it all of the above? Definitely a good idea to get prepared for this. Be prepared, not scared.
I will choose our location for better.
And I want to share with you just the quick excerpt, the top chapter, by the authority designated President Constitution.
Let's land. On the jump master. Ready up.
Never mind.
Here's the purpose. An electromagnetic
I say we land here.
has the potential to rate and damage technology and infrastructure systems. Human-made or naturally occurring entities can affect large geographic areas, disrupting elements critical to the nation's security and economic prosperity, and could adversely affect global commerce and stability.
Going to explore over there.
Efficient and cost-effective approaches to improving the nation's resilience. Also, stem cells are your body's natural immune system. The sad part is, by the age of 65, you've lost about 90% of your adult stem cells. And now, you may be able to boost your stem cells naturally within 1 hour by 30% with a plant-based capsule. Everybody's chemistry is different, and for many, this produces a variety of benefits to help reduce the effects of aging. It even comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Check it out. Their website, Now, let's go through this. Describes, first it just describes it talks about research and development, coordinated efforts.
God damn it.
A lot of not only private sectors but also government sectors working together for solutions. And I think that's key. The government and private sectors working together. Now, if we can boost both, the prosperity